Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today is Christmas in July, day 14. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. This Christmas in July season, I am sharing my journey as a brand new medical coder and along with some stories about myself. So I hope you all enjoy this series, and today I am talking about moving on. I had accepted a new position and I was leaving the comfort of my second position to come here to my eventual coding home. So let us begin. All right, packing up. Packing up and moving is always so stressful. My mom came up to help me. She flew in the last week that I was there because I had 3 weeks to report to this new position. And of course I had been working the 2 weeks because I put my 2 weeks notice in. But they were going to start me 3 weeks from the time that I got the call so that I could fall under the pay period correctly. So that's okay, that's fine. It gave me time to pack up everything. And the night that I had accepted the position and just been there right in my apartment, and I'm looking at my apartment, I'm looking around, and I had gotten a few things, and so I had like a table and some chairs and stuff like that. So I'm thinking to myself, I've got to pack this now. I've got to pack this and I've got to be able to move this. And so thankfully, my mom flying in was going to help me with that. But I took a second to look at how far I had come in such a short time. This was my first time living on my own. I've always been an independent person, like a homebody and things like that. But I had never lived in a place on my own. This was my very first apartment. And I always say I went from my mom's house to my husband's house and then back to my mom's house when I got a divorce. So being that this was the first time, it was bittersweet, of course, leaving because I had made such a great network of friends and I really liked the city and I had grown a lot there in that time, and I hadn't been there very long, it was about 8 months that I was there. So I took a second to think, I've done a lot. And when you look at what you've been through and you think to yourself, if I can go through this, I had moved to a place where I didn't know anybody. I had set up a whole network of friends and I had flourished in my position as a medical coder, and I'd learned so much, and it was all just coming together. And now I was going to start something brand new, and it's so exciting. And it was knowing that I was getting where I wanted to go, which was eventually making my way home, because all I could think now was all I needed was about 1.5 years at this place, and that was going to be enough of experience because I was going to be over 2 years at that point, and I was going to be able to get back to my hometown and be with my mom. And that was more than anything, that was the exciting part. And so I just couldn't wait. And so my mom had flown in and we were just packing up a lot of the stuff that I had and cleaning up the apartment and things like that, and just getting ready to be out on the road. This was going to be a 9-hour drive from where I was to where I'm at now. And so it's a long drive, but it's nice when you're not making this drive by yourself. And my mom said she would never let me drive like this by myself, so I said okay. And so having a cargo van, because I didn't have enough stuff for like a mini truck or anything like that, like a box truck or anything. I didn't have enough stuff, but I did have just enough that it wasn't going to fit in my minivan, because I had a minivan. Yes, I drove a minivan, and only because I had planned to be a mother and I had done all those family planning things, and it didn't work out. But that's okay, so we got the cargo van. We did get a tow thing for the van, so it was fine. The only thing was like you had to stop at those truck stops, like because there's like more space to be able to do that. So it was fine, it wasn't too bad, But the drive was beautiful. Of course, it's a wonderful drive. It's very scenic. And then of course, I get here, and I had lived in this town before. And so it wasn't like I was going in with no idea of where to go or what the area was going to be like. I had been here, like I said. So it was like just a little bit more of a homecoming feeling type deal. And so I was thinking just a little bit more, just a little bit more, and I can go back to my hometown. So I had gotten everything set up and everything like that. I got everything going, and we were able to unpack and everything. And I had just a couple of days before the start of my work week. And of course, I'm excited now. And of course, I did land nav. I made sure I went by, and I knew where I was going eventually to be, but it was nice to be able to get like the route planned out and things like that. So they said 7:30 sharp was when I had to sign into the HR office, right? And I was gonna have a lot of paperwork to fill out. So they weren't kidding when they told me I had a lot of paperwork to fill out. Oh yeah, I had a ton of paperwork to fill out. And so they handed me this huge stack. I swear it was like this, and I was just signing. And I'm like, am I signing a mortgage? Like, what am I doing here? And so then I had to go to a separate place, right? Because HR has their own separate building. It's in a complex, right? And there's a lot of buildings in this complex, and so in the medical center. So trying to be able to navigate my way and being like, oh yeah, sure. I could find that. And thinking, how the heck am I gonna find this building, and just doing that, I just went and I finished filling out all the paperwork, and they told me where to go, right? And they said that you're going to be in this one particular building because it's not in the hospital. It's going to be outside of the hospital. But because it's being renovated, there are trailers or like the temporary buildings out there. And she goes, so you're going to be in this trailer. So I said, okay. So she says, just report over there and they will get you welcomed and everything else. So I said, okay. So I went over, and I was able to find it very quickly, which was nice because, temporary buildings sort of stand out with a lot of concrete buildings around. And I went in there, and I remember meeting one of the ladies, and she's a sweet lady. And I'm going to call her Linda because she has a very distinct name. But Linda, I had met her, and she's like, are you the new girl? And I said, yes, I am. She goes, we've been expecting you. And she goes, the big boss is in the meeting right now with the other lead. She goes, so you sit here, and when they get here, then I'll let her know that you're here. So I said, okay. So I'm looking around in this trailer, right? There's bullpens in this trailer. It was very weird. It was like one of those, I don't know if you've ever been one of those construction site offices, right? They have those temporary buildings, those trailers, right? And how they have like little offices set up in there, and then they have like a big area. That was how it was. It was like a double wide, And so there was all these bullpens in the middle, and then there's all these little private offices on the sides, right? So they had transcription in there, and then they had supply people in there and things like that. So there was just a lot of just different people in there. And of course, I was in my boss's office, right? And so I'm just sitting in there waiting, and as like I said, there was bullpens in the middle. And so you would go in and you could see that there was coders in there, doing their coding thing, And I'm just sitting there, happy, smiling, because this is my new adventure. And I hear thump, 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 like really hard footsteps, right? Because I hear the door open. I hear thump, 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 thump. And then I hear, like laughing, and so I hear another person's voice. It sounds really deep. So I was like, that's got to be Laura. And so then I hear the voices coming closer, and I'm thinking, my heart's like, beating fast, and I'm thinking, I hope she likes me. I hope they really like me because I just want this to work out. And then when I saw her, I stood up, and she's like, you're Bleu. And I said, yes, I am. And then she goes, it is so nice to meet you. And I said, well, I'm really happy to meet you too. And I shook her hand and things like that. And she's the sweetest, nicest lady. She's just very strong. You could tell she's got that really strong demeanor. And the loud giggle that I heard was the other lead coder. And she goes, where are you from? And she's so loud like that. And so I was like, well, and I started saying where my hometown was. And they think, it's nice to meet you. So I was like, okay. And so Laura was like, well, we're going to get you set up with your classes so that you can start learning the EHR. I'm going to put you in the Profi clinic with 2 other ladies because, that is what you came from. That is what we need a lot of help on. So I said, okay, yeah, sure. No problem. And she goes, I'm going to introduce you in just a minute. So we went through our in-person thing, and she was saying, I'm so glad that you applied again. And she goes, I was very impressed with you when we did the interview. So I was like, oh, good. And she goes, I'm glad you made it out. And I said, yes, me too. I said, I'm very excited, looking forward to working here, and I just can't wait. And she goes, well, good. She goes, now I got something for you. So she gave me all of my books. She goes, what kind of dictionary do you like? So they had several different ones. And I said, I prefer Dorland. And she goes, if we just so happen to have a Dorland. And so I said, oh. So first things first, right off the bat, like, hello, I get books. Like, how happy am I, right? And I get all the books that I want, and the coding books. And then she goes, you can have access to an encoder, so you don't have to worry. But we always give every coder a new set of books every year. She goes, so decide and make sure you know what you want when they start ordering, so that way you can get the book that you want. Because they had a choice between like the Optum book or the AMA book. So I was like, oh, okay, well, for the CPT manual, I want the AMA. She goes, okay. So I went over to meet my other 2 new coworkers. It was an interesting meeting. One was okay. The other one was just not excited that I was there because this was her turf. And she made that very clear. I was like, oh boy. I was like, game on now. Here we go. So when I first went over there and Laura took me over, she's like, girls, she said, I want you to meet Bleu. She's going to be with you guys now. And it's going to be the 3 of you working on Profi coding. And one, she was like, oh, hey, how you doing? Real sweet, real nice. The other one, I got that up and down look, and then that kind of squinty eye look. And she's like, it's nice to meet you. I was like, oh, did it get chilly in here? And so I was like, oh, okay, well. And then she goes, well, here's your desk. So I was in they had the bullpens, right? So one row was right here and the other row was right here. So the 2 girls that knew each other were sitting next to each other, and I was sitting across the way. So that was how my first day got started. And then they were telling me about like how things go. That I said, well, how do I punch in? What do I punch in? And then she said, no, there's no punch in here. She's like, if you're late, you need to send in a leave form. But if you are just coming in to work and you're on time, you don't have to submit anything. You don't have to email me. You don't have to do any of that. So I was like, what about when I go home? She goes, no, you don't do that either. She goes, we trust our people here. She goes, if you're abusing it, then obviously. And I was like, no, I would never abuse it. I've just never been in a place that was so trusting, right? I was like, well, good. It's nice to be trusted. And she's like, yeah. She goes, it's unusual for people who haven't been in this type of environment. I go, even when I leave for lunch? She goes, yeah, just make it back in your designated time and you'll be okay. So I was like, okay. I say, I could do that. So for the next few days, I had done a lot of classes because I had to learn their EHR and I had to learn all this other stuff that I had to do specifically for the hospital, right? And that was all the first week. So while I was doing some work, it was more towards the end of the week. And just being there every day was just like, okay, this is really different. The culture shock came into play when I'm not in my own office. I'm not in my own office. I'm in a shared room. I share this room with these other people, and it was different, and it took a minute to get used to. So I was like, okay, I gotta get a set of headphones because this isn't gonna work. If I have to sit and listen to chatter all day, because these girls, they loved to talk. And when Laura would come in the room, they would be like, and they would be you would see everybody start working, you know, and then they would get back to work, and then she'd close her door, and then they'd start talking again. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna need a set of headphones. But yes, so that's gonna wrap up my story for today. But yes, it was a very exciting time, and it was stressful in that, you know, it's brand new, everything is brand new, and I know I have a coworker that doesn't like me. So I was just like, okay, we're gonna have to work with this, you know. But I didn't think for a second at that time that the choice that I had made was wrong. I didn't think that. I knew it was gonna take a little bit of adjustment, but I didn't think that I had made a bad decision. So that was what kind of helped me through that time. And, you know, but more to come. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I hope you are enjoying this series, and I will see y'all on the next episode. Bye.